Good afternoon. I'm David Dutton in the Channel 1 Atlanta Command Center. We have this just in. We're getting reports of a 7.0 earthquake that has struck Northern California this afternoon, and followed by several aftershocks. We also have a tsunami warning that has been issued for the California coastline. This includes the San Francisco area. Residents along the west coast of California are urged to stay away from the coast, as we're expecting one of the first possible tsunamis to come into the west coast of California within the next half hour. Again, a 7.0 earthquake has struck Northern California near the Arica area, and now a tsunami warning is in effect for the California and Oregon coastlines, and this includes the San Francisco major metropolitan populated areas. Let's get the very latest on what's going on live right now as we have team coverage now from both Fox Weather and KTVU in California.
To a 7.0.
Yeah, so little quakes earlier in the day, almost signaling what we are going to see unfold in the last hour. And the possibility of aftershocks. I mean, that's something that we're going to be watching closely, not only throughout the day today, but of course that can linger on for several days after such a big quake like this. And no telling exactly where you get those aftershocks. But yeah, you can see people, I mean, that wave action definitely pushing on. You don't know how out of the ordinary this is for this particular region.
I'm not familiar with the beach right here, obviously. I'm not sure this person knows that there is a tsunami warning in this area, but the first wave of the tsunami may not be the biggest one. You might see that water get drawn out before the major one comes out as well. So we will see what happens right here. But that first earthquake struck at about 10:44 a.m. just outside of the city of Petrolia, roughly 50 miles away from Eureka. National Weather Service immediately issued that tsunami warning, Jane, along the coastline, California, all the way through the Oregon area, from Santa Cruz to Douglas County, Oregon.
So learning now that the San Francisco Zoo has closed. All guests have been evacuated. Animals have been secured. Staff have been moved to higher ground. So getting that information in is important. I mean, you're starting to see businesses really take to their emergency plans when it comes to tsunami threats and earthquakes. You absolutely have to. I have to imagine that rail service in ways is going to be suspended as we go throughout the day today.
That's BART. BART has been suspended as they check out the infrastructure right now. And Humboldt and Mendocino County officials, they haven't received any reports of damage yet, but that was as of 11 o'clock a.m. So we're going to see if we can update that too. Closer to home, though, the residents around the Bay Area, talking about Dublin, Santa Cruz, Belmont, Castro Valley, San Francisco, Napa, and Sunnyvale also. This is Oakland, California in the Bay Area right now. You can see traffic obviously moving pretty well. Don't see any infrastructure damage right there to the roads, but this is an area that could see the tsunami come in pretty closely, and that's going to be at about 12:10 local time if it does happen.
Yeah, you're going to get the water rise into the bay as well. And so Oakland could potentially feel the impact of this as we go into the next under an hour or so from this point.
And the reason why they've done that, they issued these tsunami warnings because the potential to have something like widespread inundation is imminent or expected. That's why they had the warnings right there. National Weather Service estimated the tsunami would arrive in San Francisco at about 12:10 p.m. Now, residents reported feeling the tremors across the Bay Area. That's why BART suspended their transit, and it looks like that service is still down.
Yeah, so you can certainly expect those delays to pile up as the day goes on. The earthquake located close to where the Pacific Plate and the Gorda Plate meet, near what we call Mendocino fracture zone. Subsequent earthquakes, they were reported in the region, including a magnitude 5 earthquake near Cobb. So aftershocks being reported there as well, all according to the USGS. California Governor Gavin Newsom, he said that officials with the state's Office of Emergency Services are, quote, actively responding to the earthquakes this morning in Northern California, and that Californians should follow guidance from local emergency responders. He said that on social media. So check in with your local governments, police officers, to find out what the best course of action for you and your family is in this event.
Yeah, that's all good information right there. Obviously check in with your local, but let's get back to the map. I can see the beach right here. You know, I don't see anything that's going to be disruptive at this point, but we're still good. It's supposed to be 12:10. So about a half an hour away before the first waves would arrive into the Bay Area itself. But we've got the shake map up there also. We've had moderate to strong shaking all along that coastline. And again, this was a shallow quake, Jane, and it was 10 kilometers deep. Anything under 70 kilometers deep is considered to be a shallow earthquake. So you're going to feel it, and it also has the potential to displace more water if it is a shallower earthquake, which is not good news for a tsunami.
No, and you know, places like Crescent City were kind of in that timeline already of when maybe some of those first waves would have come to the coast.
No, I've not seen any reports. We've got our people working on it. Well, they'll tell us if there were reports of a tsunami coming in at this point. We're hoping it doesn't. But we do have the tsunami alerts going all up and down that coastline from Coos Bay, Oregon, stretch it down through Crescent City to Eureka, and going all the way down to San Francisco, including the Bay.
Yeah, so just check in with your neighbors, check in with your family, your friends, make sure that everybody is okay. You know, I imagine the sense of unease that people are feeling is definitely there when you get such a powerfully strong earthquake, major earthquake, you know, being reported off the coast of California. Yeah. This is a part of the country that is prone to earthquakes.
I'm trying to remember the last one that was just offshore from Northern California, and I can't remember. I mean, we're talking
typically
about...
SoCal, you talk a lot about the faults there.
No, this is a situation that really is cause for concern. If you live anywhere around Northern California, all the way up to Oregon, around that coast, be prepared to seek higher ground at this point, because the tsunami warning is in effect, and it's open-ended. There's no stop for the tsunami warning until they realize that one hasn't been formed. Now, we're zooming into this area right there. I don't know if that's a natural tidal phenomenon right here, but there's a guy that's walking across the coastline. Obviously, some people aren't really aware that there is a tsunami warning, or if they do, they're trying to get some pictures of it. Either way, San Francisco, 12:10 p.m. is when it is expected to be in there. There's Oakland, California on your right, and that is the coast just off to your left. So we're going to stick with it. We're going to see what happens with it so far, but I haven't seen any updated information on anything when it comes to damage reports. Obviously good news there. No reports of injuries just yet, but again, it just happened. It happened just under an hour ago. Local time 10:44. Right now it's 2:38 Eastern time. So we're going to watch this continue to unfold over the next few hours to see if we do in fact get any kind of a tsunami. I'm hoping not, obviously. It's something we don't want to see.
Yeah.
But this is probably your best bet of seeing one if there was a warning across that board within the next half hour for San Francisco.
So you can see people out there. I mean, it's few and far, but every single time a wave comes in, it makes you wonder, you know,
is this the one?
Is this the one? I mean, you're looking at you know, of course, a shot of Oakland a little bit further inland and then onto the coast thanks to KTVU.
Yep.
But you're looking at, again, this is a threat that's not just, I know San Francisco, the Bay Area is, of course, the most populated spot that's under this warning. But you get a little further up the coast and even into Oregon, Brookings, Oregon, the potential of those first waves have already pushed their way in. And so, you know, you'll see how this ultimately plays out. But I think it's important. I have to imagine in California, Oregon, in a place where there's a lot more activity with these fault lines and these zones, that you have this practice.
Yeah, you had the name of that fault line too. It's the Pacific Gorda?
The Pacific Gorda. So I was reading here, you have the northwest moving Pacific Plate and the eastward moving Gorda Plate, and they're really subducting. So one's moving underneath.
Yeah, so you're sliding essentially.
So you're sliding. So maybe we get a slide in
which
one
would
of those
displace
plates, which would displace the water.
Exactly. It's not what I mean, if it was just a regular, like a push where they slid against each other and or in the same plane and didn't displace any water, you wouldn't have that tsunami warning. But we're not exactly sure what kind of earthquake it was. However, we do know that the tsunami warnings are still in effect. And if you go to tsunami.gov, you can follow along. That's who issues all the warnings right there, tsunami.gov, if you want to follow along with this. But so far, so good. You do have the first responder right there waiting.
First responders coming in, yeah.
Waiting, going down the beach and seeing what's going to happen. Can we get a location of where this is? I know it's around the Bay Area somewhere. I don't know exactly where.
But I have to imagine there's going to be much more of that happening around the Bay Area with emergency response that it's been enacted. So you get the fire departments, you have beach patrol that is now getting people off the shores, because the first thing you want to do is, of course, get away from the water. Don't go in the water, more importantly. So surfing, all of that is an absolute no-go.
No, higher ground is what you absolutely need to do right now. If you live anywhere in that tsunami warned area. And again, that tsunami warning area goes essentially Santa Cruz all the way up to halfway up the Oregon coastline. So it's a big area for sure. And the timing on that, 12:10 for you for San Francisco. You can see the first responders that gets out there on the beach. He's trying to clear the beach would be the best move right here. But you can see the seawall back there. I mean, you're prepared for it. But there you are.
I mean, the fact that they have a seawall just kind of tells you one thing. I mean, oftentimes we're talking seawalls, we're talking hurricane-prone areas. And knowing that that's in place because you can get a tsunami, but oftentimes you can get, big storm systems that, of course, would then displace that water.
You get the atmospheric rivers come in.
And that's going to push that water and displace. But look how much beach we're working with
here. That's a lot. It is.
That's an incredible stretch. I mean, to walk on that during the heat of the summer is probably not any fun.
Well, California Governor Gavin Newsom said officials with the state's Office of Emergency Services are, quote, actively responding to the earthquake this morning in Northern California. There you are, you can see it. And Californians should follow guidance from the local emergency responders, which is what we're watching right here is the first responders driving along on the beach right there, hopefully giving out warnings that people should get away from the water at this point, go to higher ground, because you don't have a lot of time. You've got less than 20 minutes at this point, less than half an hour at this point before that first wave will reach into the Bay Area if there's one to form.
So you can see, I mean, the emergency response is ongoing, and it's probably happening up and down several coastlines, several beaches right now in and around the Bay Area. You get north of San Francisco as well. But the shaking, Oakland, California, could see the potential of inundation well into the Bay. And traffic is moving, but perhaps slower on one side than the other. But that's one thing, too, that we had light to weak shaking that had been reported around the Bay
All the way
Area.
Down that far,
All the way down
farther
to
south.
spots like Santa Cruz, where we had some of the shaking through the wine country. But then you get up a little bit farther off to the north, Mendocino, up into Eureka, and that's where you can see the much stronger shaking, even all and over to I-5.
That's all right. It's Mendocino County, California, right there. It's a live picture.
Gosh, it is a beautiful, beautiful
areas.
picture, beautiful area. This is California, but it's an unsettling, eerie feel. You get this clear blue sky, looks otherwise like a picture-perfect day, and the potential is there in the Pacific to maybe create a really dangerous situation. And then often, too...
Okay. KPIX right there, San Francisco. Live pictures coming in right here. Don't see any, obviously, no infrastructure damage as cars are moving pretty well on the roads right there, Jane. There we go. We're going back to black. But there you go. This is Oakland. This is our shot right here of Oakland, California at this point. Bay Area, the entire San Francisco Bay under a tsunami warning right now. And we're anticipating the first waves, if they do get in there, would be about 12:10 local time. So you've got less than a half an hour at this point.
Public schools, or I should say public, should avoid all coastal areas, and evacuation order has now been put into place.
Okay, great. So we're going to be following this the entire afternoon long, you guys. Appreciate you watching us. Any new updates, we're going to have them for you right at the end of this break.
Is your car's plastic trim faded and milky? Don't worry, sir.
This is unforgettable.
98-inch Samsung QLED. Amazing picture.
I'm hot.
Yeah, maybe put that little one out.
It's very hot.
It's kind of toasty.
What if your holidays got even bigger? Find extra large Samsung TVs at Best Buy.
I've been using this product called Muesli, and I've been telling everybody about it because it's been life-changing to me.
I go into a lot of things thinking it's not going to work, and I thought Muesli would be the same thing, but it wasn't.
People are like, what are you doing? Because my skin looks completely different than it did. I feel like people can see me for me because of how confident I feel.
Find the real you again. Go to muesli.com/TV.
Well, there's so much noise about probiotic, prebiotic. For me, it's almost chaotic.
I'm a GI nurse, so it is all about gut health.
Nothing ever regulated my gut. That was actually the first change I noticed. I immediately started feeling my gut being better.
I've definitely been as regular as could be.
My GI health is super solid.
I don't feel bloated. I drink my AG1 and I have a good bowel movement.
This is what my husband's cowboy boots look like, and it literally breaks my heart. So today, I am surprising him, and we are getting him a good pair of boots. And we're getting rid of these ones with the holes in them.
Those look good. We've got to get you some.
Oh, we don't need to get one.
No, today. This is literally why we're here.
Are you serious?
I'm serious, baby. Your boots have holes in them.
All right.
We're getting an upgrade.
Oh, yeah.
They look so good.
When my hair started to thin, I thought, am I gonna have any hair left?
After I gave birth, my hair wasn't even thin, it was gone.
When I spoke to my dermatologist, he immediately pointed me in the direction of Nutrafol.
It's 100% drug-free and clinically tested.
Within 3 months, my hair was fuller.
It's longer, it's so much thicker.
I had more scalp coverage.
It was so nice to be noticed for my hair after hiding it for so many years.
Start your hair growth journey at Nutrafol.com.
It is official. First things first is a hit.
The reviews are in.
First things first is a mix of analysis, tremendous chemistry,
and total ridiculousness.
First things first. Weekdays at 3 Eastern on FS1.
Sports, culture, and comedy? Sounds like Ricky Cobb.
Maybe just from a size perspective, I would give him a problem.
The Ricky Cobb Show, daily on
for you right now. A magnitude 7.0 earthquake recorded just offshore from Northern California earlier this morning, about an hour and 3 minutes ago. Strong shaking was reported all across Northern California, especially near the coast. We've had tsunami warnings issued for parts of the coast of California, including San Francisco and the San Francisco Bay. We saw surfers getting out of the water and moving back inland. So the surfers are aware and they're getting out of the water right now, at least in this shot, which is good news. A series of major earthquakes struck Humboldt County in Northern California earlier this morning, and the initial magnitude was measured at 6.6, according to the USGS. The earthquake has since been upgraded to a magnitude 7.0.
So you can see people walking away from the water now. And that's the best advice that we can give you is really get away from the water, get to higher ground.
Right.
And, you know, emergency services have been activated.
We've seen them driving on the beach.
We saw them driving on the beach. We saw fire trucks pulling up to at least one beach entrance. Beach Patrol, of course, is going to make sure that everybody is getting out of harm's way as long as this warning is in place. We can still see a couple people too close for comfort there as they look out onto the waves to see how things are ultimately going to play out.
Right.
But really, in this particular case, I just
that
say...
Could take you, I mean, listen, it'll take you off guard because the first wave isn't always the biggest one. And sometimes that water gets sucked out first before the big wave comes in. Anything you see is not normal. Get away from the water. There's no question. You need to get to higher ground at this point. But we've got tsunami warnings up and down. We've been scouring the reports to see if we've had any tsunami come ashore. Have not seen any reports yet. Now, they would have first hit there in the Oregon coastline and slowly worked their way down across Northern California. We have not seen any warnings or any actual tsunami reports at this point, but that just doesn't mean they haven't happened. But we're going to see what happens. It's right here, Mendocino County. Again, beautiful
the
picture.
lighthouse there. I mean, this is otherwise a picture-perfect day on the West Coast. You have blue skies, barely a cloud in the sky, a little bit of perhaps a marine layer off into the distance, lingering from earlier in today. But, you know, the shaking was felt quite strongly. When you get north of Mendocino, you get up into spots like Eureka. But you still felt some light shaking in and around the San Francisco Bay Area. And that's what has prompted spots like the San Francisco Zoo. They have evacuated the zoo. They've brought animals into safety. They're bringing all of their staff to higher ground. And I think more and more businesses, I have to imagine schools, are following suit with their really mandated plans for safety. I mean, it's almost as if we were in a fire drill, you know, things like that. You practice
it
them
clicks
for a
in,
reason.
and here we go. We've got this coming in. Evacuation orders have been issued after the preliminary magnitude 7.0 earthquake struck off the coast of Humboldt County. That was Thursday morning, leading to that tsunami warning. So the San Francisco Bay Area Rapid Transit District, that's the BART, that has been stopped in all directions And that's because of the right through the underwater tunnel between San Francisco and Oakland. So the tunnel traffic is now stopped. A Fox weather alert is still going on right now as we follow what may be a tsunami that could roll down the coastline into the San Francisco Bay. And that was going to happen. It would be in 20 minutes. That is the forecast from the USGS. There's a truck right there. It's one of the first responders. They've been trying to kick people off the beach or at least notify them that they are under a tsunami alert, a tsunami warning, which means inundation is imminent, and that's a possibility we're going to find out.
Yeah. So there's plenty of unease, I have to imagine, that people are feeling right now.
Yeah.
You know, how often are you placed under tsunami warning? And in one that is credible like this, and you're
We're going
seeing,
to chase this guy off the beach, I hope so, with the bike.
They've got the crews. This kind of just tells you how we're just looking at this man with his bike not too long
you were
ago.
warning him. You're trying to warn him all the way from New York. Here we go with this guy. But this is what we do know. Strong shaking was reported. No damage reports yet. That's obviously great news right here. But the BART has suspended both directions of the tunnel. They're not going in and out of that right now, and they obviously have to check the infrastructure there also. But yeah, there's a stern talking to. Get off the beach, my friend. Tsunami warnings issued for parts of the coast of California, and that includes right here, San Francisco Bay Area. A series of major earthquakes. We're talking about a 7.0. That's a major earthquake, Jane.
I was going to say, on the earthquake magnitude scale, anything from 7.0 to 7.9 is considered a major earthquake.
Yeah.
And, you know, on average, you see about 10 to 15 of those per year. So this is a relatively rare event to see something, especially so close to the United States coastline.
Yes,
and
indeed.
thankfully, we didn't see it on the U.S., you know, on
it wasn't on shore, but we did have
on shore, but it was relatively shallow. And
reports of the shaking. That was going on right now. Now, listen, we've got the KTVU camera up here. This is Oakland, California, currently underneath a tsunami warning. Been watching this for the last hour now. It happened at about 10:44 local time AM this morning, so just over an hour ago. And the tsunami warning is still in effect for all the regions around that region. So we haven't seen any reports of a tsunami coming ashore yet, but that doesn't mean it hasn't happened. So we're going to be looking at regions around, I'd say, the Bay Area. That's next up. And this is something I really want to see if it actually happens. I'm hoping it doesn't, but if something comes roaring right through that bay, right through the channel, we'll see it. This is Davis, California. That's the market right there.
So you could see some of the shaking into the market, and people looking around saying, is this what we're feeling?
Yep, they're like, they're used to it.
And how that's swaying people. I mean, it's an uneasy feeling when you know that you have an earthquake happening and you don't exactly know where the epicenter of that earthquake is in the event of when it's happening.
Yeah, that was offshore by about 30 to 60 miles. And here, back to live pictures. Here we are, San Francisco. It's from KPIX. We appreciate this picture coming in. And listen, as we pan around, are the boats going in or out?
So these boats look like they're coming in. Open Crescent City, there were reports on social media that boats were going out of the harbor after the tsunami warning was being issued. And so you have to imagine.
Right. So if you're a boat in the water, you're really not even going to sense a tsunami went underneath you. You're not going to notice it until it runs up across the lower part of the shelf and it goes right in. Little tape from Chico, California. Let's see if the pool's got a little bit of shake going on right here. As we keep on getting these videos coming in. So far, no videos, Jane, of a tsunami. That's great news. There's a little bit of shaking.
There's a little bit of shake.
Oh, boy. That's right when it's happening. That was a 7.0 just offshore from this region, so there you go.
Yeah, Northern California is where we felt the strongest shaking. That was north of San Francisco.
Right.
So Chico is one of those areas that definitely was much closer to
the epicenter.
To the epicenter of this major earthquake. The State Operations Center, you know, they've been working in coordination with the governor to make sure that every plan is in place in the case of, you know, you get an emergency like this that comes to fruition. Hopefully it doesn't.
So you know who felt it? We felt it in the Bay Area, in Dublin. Santa Cruz felt the shaking also. Strong shaking all around that region at Belmont, Castro Valley, Napa, Sunnyvale.
Napa.
Yeah, you talk about wine country, they felt the shake. And they're not immune to that. They feel it oftentimes. This one, 7.0, that's one that causes alarm, especially when it is offshore and you worry about the tsunami factor. And we've got the tsunami warnings that are still in play. Now, we don't see any reports of a tsunami coming in yet, but as soon as they do come in, if they do, we'll have them for you right here for sure. But it will be in this area. Man, listen, this man has about 15 minutes to get off the beach because the forecast is for the Bay Area to get the tsunami, if they do happen, at 10 after the hour.
10 after the hour. And so this is emergency cruise. This is not just your random person driving up and down the beach. This is beach patrol, and they're monitoring these waves and getting people to safety.
Yeah, Jane, so we've been following this, and this earthquake happened at 10:44. We have tsunami warnings, alerts from the Bay Area at Santa Cruz all the way up to the Oregon coastline. As a live look at Oakland, California, infrastructure right here does not appear to be damaged. Obviously, cars are going up and down okay. What we do worry about and what we set our eyes on now is the ocean. Will the Pacific rise up with a tsunami? That's something we're following across the Bay Area. We are Fox Weather. We're all over it, and we'll come back in just a couple of minutes.
Whether you're a professional driver or just
the Denali earthquake, several very large earthquakes around the world have created these smaller earthquakes that are volcanic areas. So we expect this to be a thing for the next few days for us.
Alicia Hotevec-Ellis, thank you so much for hanging out with us here and giving us some very important information. We understand a tsunami warning has just expired for our area, which is certainly some good news for us as we continue to watch and kind of keep an eye on what happened in Humboldt County where that 7.0 struck. We appreciate your time. We really do. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks.
All right. All right, next, I think we have Mark Duveau on the phone, former FEMA coordinator, as we look live from SkyFox now, who's monitoring along the coast there. And we watch, we're trying to get him, but as we look at these live pictures, we're just getting some information as you look at these live pictures from SkyFox of fire rescue along the coast right there. We're not sure if they're working or just kind of clearing the beach at this point. We're going to be checking in on that. Alicia Trost confirms that BART is in the process of resuming normal service. As we told you before, they had paused trains at the Transbay Tube while the tsunami warning was in effect, but with the tsunami warning expiring right now, it is going to be, service is going to be resuming, but of course, if you're one of those people that use BART, depend on it, I would expect delays for a little while as they get back on track, if you will, to normal service now that the tsunami warning has now expired. But what has happened throughout the morning, I can tell you, just after 11 o'clock, about an hour ago, just to recap everything for you, we did have a 7.0 earthquake strike the Ferndale, California area. That's up in Humboldt County. And we spoke to the mayor of Eureka a short time ago, right after it happened. She had not had any indication of any severity of any damage, but there were evacuation orders that were in effect for her city at the time and issues in her county as people were able to, let me just get this update here. Yeah, tsunami warning's been canceled. But we're still trying to understand that the tsunami warning that expired just a few moments ago. All right, let's get over to Justin Shore right now with San Francisco Fire and just get an update. Justin, we were just looking at some live pictures. This looks like it's the Ocean Beach area where you're out of Richmond area, I think, patrols that area. And I wanted to get an update from you about what you're hearing right now about any incidents in the city at this point.
Yeah, so far we don't have any reports of damage or injuries as a result of the earthquake and the shaking. We do have a number of communities, of course, that received an alert on their phone from the National Weather Service regarding the tsunami warning. That is the highest level of warning for tsunami that they have. And we've been encouraging folks to revisit their family escape plans and follow those tsunami evacuation routes in their community. National Weather Service recommends going inland 1 mile or above sea level 100 feet during a tsunami warning.
Justin, as we look at these live pictures along the coast there in San Francisco, we see people still walking along the beach. Had anyone from San Francisco Fire been out there warning folks who just were walking along the beach? What was your role in this while this was happening?
So the fire department has a set list of policies that we follow following an earthquake. So all of our fire engines and ladder trucks will go out into the community and survey for damage. Because we weren't finding a lot of damage, we shifted towards the tsunami warning. And we're encouraging folks to please stay away from the coastline, stay away from the water. There is nothing to see at the coast during a tsunami warning. You will not see a big wave. You will not see anything. The only thing you will do is endanger rescuers who are sent to save you.
Yeah, and even before the tsunami warning expired just a few moments ago, there were plenty of people out there on the beach, and of course we have your men and women who are out there kind of keeping the eye on things and are responsible for saving lives in there. But we still see people who, even though the warning just expired, they seem to have been out there for a little bit while longer when the tsunami warning was in effect. So what else do you want to tell folks out there, or what other update do you want to give us about the situation that we're in right now? I mean, the tsunami warning's expired, and we're still in the early stages. It's 7.0. You weren't seeing any damage, but what are you kind of looking at for at this point?
What we're looking at right now is seeing how our community responds to the alerts that we've set up. You know, we had the alert come out to the mobile devices from the National Weather Service. We're also using social and sharing media to get the message out. We're using television and radio. A lot of different agencies up and down the Oregon and California coast have been trying to get this preparation information out for years about what to do if there's a tsunami warning. Well, today we had one, and we're hoping that our communities listened to it and took action. Even if the National Weather Service says, never mind, you know, we over-anticipated this. We're not seeing any reports of large wave activity between us and the epicenter as of now, which may lead to them decreasing this. But as a community, we need to remember that this was not a false alarm. This was a real concern, and we need to be prepared for it.
A real concern, and we heard Bill Martin, who's been covering the weather in our area for decades, just let people know that this is serious, because we don't get them too often here. And when a tsunami warning does take effect, you really do have to listen to it. Let me ask you one last question here. The folks up north in Humboldt County, is there some sort of mutual aid that you'll provide to them if there is help that's needed for that area?
The Governor's Office of Emergency Preparedness and Emergency Services can request resources that they have pre-deployed in San Francisco. We have not received any requests as of now.
All right, Captain Justin Schur with the San Francisco Fire Department, thank you so much for sharing what you know and the work that you all are doing out there right now in the community. We appreciate your time.
Thank you. Be safe, everyone.
You're watching KTVU Fox 2 News at noon. The News at Noon starts now.
This is KTVU Fox 2 News at Noon.
Good afternoon. I'm Andre Sr. Thank you for joining us, and we begin with breaking news. A strong earthquake was felt widely across Northern California. There was a tsunami warning, but it hasn't been lifted. It just happened just a few minutes ago. Now, the quake struck at 10:44 west of Ferndale, a small city in coastal Humboldt County near the Oregon border. It was a 7.0 magnitude quake. The shaking was felt here in the Bay Area. BART was holding trains from the Transbay Tube. It's now been starting moving again. Several Bay Area county offices have been evacuated, and we have team coverage for you this noontime. KTVU's James Torres joins us live in studio with reaction to all of this. Good afternoon, James.
And good afternoon to you, Andre. Everything I'm about to show you now is all just really easy resources that you can easily check out at home, but we're just kind of showing you what we're able to see right now. We'll start, of course, with Facebook, just simply asking you what you felt. We had that large 7.0 earthquake that led to a number of aftershocks kind of all throughout the Northern California region. And that means some of us in the Bay Area might have felt a little bit of something. We saw some people commenting from San Leandro saying they felt something. Not so much in San Lorenzo. One person says they felt it in South San Francisco, another in Santa Cruz County. Let's talk about San Francisco here, because the fire department put out this alert here saying, of course, we are going to expect some of these aftershocks. So watch out for any broken glass, fallen items, check in with family, and of course, just keep in mind that those aftershocks are possible. Evacuate if you smell any gas, smoke, or fire. Speaking of evacuations in San Francisco, the zoo has done that earlier this morning. They say because of that emergency and that tsunami warning, which remember, that warning has now expired. They say guests have been evacuated, animals are secured, staff have moved to higher ground. We are hearing that in a number of different cities throughout the Bay Area, including in West Berkeley. This is a Nixle alert. You can easily sign up for this. It'll give you alerts straight to your phone through a text message or through an email. It says, due to that tsunami warning, West Berkeley, parts of West Berkeley are now being asked to evacuate immediately, stay on higher ground. Again, that tsunami danger, that tsunami warning has now been canceled, but some of these evacuations are still in place. We saw a video just moments ago of beaches being cleared out so people can stay away from the coast. That's still the message from a lot of fire departments locally, telling you stay away from the water, stay on higher ground until this whole event is entirely over. Now, we will take you back up to the North Bay. We did speak to the mayor of the city of Eureka, who kind of gave us an idea of what they're looking at and what their evacuations are looking like.
Currently, we are doing evacuations in some of the areas that could potentially be affected by a tsunami, and that is just as preventative measures. We don't have any details in yet about damages that may or may not have happened, but I'm sure that that will be forthcoming.
And for the most part, we are checking in with a number of different places in cities all throughout the Northern California region. So far, not too many reports of any damages. The mayor of Eureka says places like the marina, City Hall, the wastewater management plant have all been evacuated, basically because they're all lower level buildings. Anyone in the Bay Area, reminder, this is what the fire department is telling us, stay away from the beaches. You're not going to see anything worth being there for, and try to remain on higher ground until we get a complete all clear that this event is entirely over with. Andre, we'll send it back to you.
All right, James, thank you so much for that update. A good reminder to everyone there. The earthquake in Humboldt County impacting BART service here in the Bay Area. KTV's Allie Rasmus joins us live with the impact on service. Allie.
Hey, Andre, we're at the West Oakland BART station, where up until just about 10 minutes ago, there were several dozen people out here in the plaza. And that's because for a period, for about 45 minutes, BART service was suspended following that earthquake that struck Northern California. Now, that's typical. Anytime there's an earthquake, BART always stops service. They check the tracks. They check the Transbay tube. They make sure that there's no damage or no problems before they resume service. We have just learned that 5 minutes ago, BART service has resumed. So now BART trains are running again, and we can now hear them going on the tracks here behind us. But we spoke to a man who was on board one of those BART trains from Vallejo here to headed into the city. And when he was at the West Oakland BART station behind us, that's when he got the alert and an overhead announcement from BART on the trains that there had been an earthquake and a tsunami alert. And so everyone had to get off the train and onto the platform. And he says at that moment, his fellow passengers calmly walked off the train. Everyone did as they were told, and there were a lot of people waiting kind of in a holding pattern to figure out what they do next. But he said that in the moment, it was a little bit unsettling. He told us his reaction when he heard that announcement.
I was scared. I was scared because we live all around water. I mean, everywhere you look, there's water. And, you know, what I saw in Japan with the tsunami and how high it was ridiculous. We can't outrun a tsunami. This is all flooded. So what are you going to do? I was praying. I do. I pray.
Again, that's the reaction from a BART passenger who heard about the alert and heard the overhead warning from BART to get off the trains. The good news, though, BART has resumed service, including service through the Transbay tube as of about 10 minutes ago. BART does say that there will be some residual delays because of having to stop service for about 45 minutes to check in the wake of that earthquake. And that tsunami warning, as you mentioned, has been lifted for our area. But it was a little bit disturbing for some passengers who hadn't experienced this before to go through that. But again, BART service resumed about 10 minutes ago, and so trains are running again, including through the Transbay tube into the city. Live at the West Oakland BART station, Allie Rasmus, KTVU, Fox 2 News.
That's certainly some welcome news for all the people that use BART every day. Thank you so much, Allie. Joining us now on the phone, former FEMA coordinator Mark Nouveau. Mark, thank you so much for joining us. You're actually with us on Zoom. That's good to know. Let's talk a little bit about the response here. We heard from the San Francisco Fire Department. We heard what the Eureka mayor said just a short time ago. What were you watching out for as being a former FEMA coordinator here when something like this happens?
Well, what we're trying to do is take a look. There's buoys located throughout the Pacific Ocean along the coastline, and those buoys are designed to give us readings for tsunami. So once the quake took place in Northern California, you're starting to look at those buoys. You're starting to launch Coast Guard to get out into the ocean area to see if they can pick up anything. They're taking a look at satellite imaging, trying to determine the extent of the earthquake and how big the tsunami was coming. How big that wave may have been. It looks like at this point, fingers crossed, we're not going to have too much of an incident here. What we are concerned about as we go forward, though, are aftershocks, which sometimes is just as damaging as the initial quake, Andre.
Yeah, we heard from a seismologist at USGS talk about the aftershocks here. But right now, as we effort to get more information about what happened in Humboldt County, because it was a 7.0 earthquake, significant still, and one that I think it was one about that size caused significant damage up in that area recently in the last couple of years. So what do you think is happening up there right now as we work and wait to get more information on the extent, if any, damage coming out of that area?
Yeah, you were right on with that. You know, not only have we had one previously, earthquake that caused extensive damage, hundreds of millions of dollars in Crescent City, and you've got evacuation taking place in that area too. But remember, this was 7.0. That's a large earthquake. Loma Prieta that struck the Bay Area did extensive damage was 6.9. So we're still at a point where we look at that and say, thank God nothing serious has happened so far that we're aware of. Let's keep an eye on the aftershocks. Let's be prepared. The good news is we're testing systems for emergency notification on cell phone, the tsunami warning system. All of those things are working well, which is good news.
Yeah, if you're not one of those people that got, if you have the MyShake app, I got the alert from Humboldt County, and then I got the tsunami warning on my phone, which I guess is the alert system that is directly linked to your cell phone provider or cell phone carrier, something like that. Something that the fire department, Cal Fire, I think, is adding for wildfires. They'll let you know when there's a serious wildfire in your neighborhood. So these are the things that, if nothing serious has happened here, at the very least, we'll have a chance to have tested out the way we communicate, get that communication from these agencies, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And for our viewers, you can sign up for some of these alerts if you're not automatically getting through Nixle, N-I-X-L-E. So that's important to know. But this is an unnoticed event, if you will. Wildfires we talk about, those are noticed events. We know what's coming for the most part. They start in a moment, but the damage we can foresee. When it comes to an unnoticed event like this, earthquake, tsunami, this gives us an idea of how we prepare for ourselves, and not only that, but the first responders, response community. So we're testing those systems. But I think it's important for viewers to understand this is an opportunity for themselves and their family. Are we ready if something takes place, whether it's a tsunami or an earthquake or whatever? Do we have those systems and communications for our family in place now? It's just a good reminder.
It is certainly a good reminder for many folks out there. If you live along the coast here in the Bay Area, and if you live in our region, especially since we are prone to having earthquakes, it's definitely good to have that information at the ready for you. Mark Nouveau, former FEMA coordinator, thank you so much for providing your insight this afternoon into what thankfully did not turn out to be much, but is helping us be on alert and have all the correct tools we need in place should something like this happen in the future. We appreciate your time.
You're welcome, Andre. Take care.
All right. Let's turn things over now to just Mark Tamayo. He is in the Weather Center with much more. Mark, this is something that you've been watching for us this morning. Can you tell us, give us an update? I think we're getting another information here.
Yeah.
NOAA has canceled the tsunami warning, so that's just what we reported on just a few minutes ago. It became official right now, Mark.
Yeah, that's right. Andre, NOAA canceled the tsunami warning. I checked at the time, that was about 11:54. The main event with the quake was at 10:44 this morning, so just over an hour. So whenever you get a quake in this portion of Northern California, they call it the triple junction, and there's a lot of seismic activity. And of course, a 7.0, you definitely have to keep a watchful eye on. If you remember the Japan quake, that was so far away, it happened overnight, and that happened, that energy made its way to the Bay Area the next day. So we had a lot of time to prepare for that. But as you can see, the epicenter, that's the star off Cape Mendocino. That is so close to the Bay Area coastline, and that's right. That's why when you get a 7.0 quake like this, they have to issue those warnings to everybody to prepare for possibly a tsunami. Thankfully, that did not happen. But you can see the coverage in terms of what people were feeling across Northern California, and you can see some strong shaking, as you would expect, close to the epicenter, closer to McKinleyville, Eureka, Petrolia. I used to work in this television market up in Humboldt County. Just a lot of seismic action for this portion of the state. As we come in closer, there you can't see the epicenter, magnitude 7.0, and just that location, that is the area, the triple point, the triple junction they call it. That's where you have a lot of earthquake activity, and of course today, that 7.0 really jumping off the map here. As we come in closer, you would expect a lot of aftershocks with this, and so far you can see all these dots showing up on the maps here. You can see the basically corresponding to how long ago, whether it's an hour ago, a few minutes ago, and still a lot of activity. And you'd expect that with the magnitude 7.0. But once again, the headline, the tsunami warning, which was issued, going off on all the phones and everything like that, and on the radio and TV stations, that has now been dropped. And what happens is after that main event, that 7.0 quake that happened at 10:44 this morning, it takes time to figure out the dynamics of the quake and how much energy was released and if that could create a tsunami wave. And as Mark mentioned, there are specialized buoys. They're called dart buoys. They have sensors at the bottom of the ocean that can actually measure the weight of the ocean, the pressure, and when they detect a pressure change, that can be a good sign that there has been a tsunami. But thankfully, that has not been the case for today, and you can still see a lot of aftershocks for this portion of Northern California. I believe, do we have some cameras out there right now to show you, some live cameras? Of course, we always want to focus on the coastline and to see, whenever a tsunami warning is issued, to see if there's any activity with the currents, anything like that. Here's our live camera looking out toward the Golden Gate Bridge and out toward the Marin Headlands and Point Bonita. And a closer look here, looking out toward Fort Point for the Golden Gate Bridge. So thankfully, all is quiet, and that is a good development for this afternoon. And thankfully, that tsunami warning is no longer in place. But as Mark mentioned, this is always such a good reminder, because when you have something like this, you probably noticed it today. I know I did. It's like, wow, this event is happening right now. We do not have time to prepare. So now is the time to prepare. Here's a live camera looking out toward Ocean Beach. You can see some white water offshore there, but that's just linked to the surf. But this is the time to prepare, because this will happen again. And whenever you get a quake up toward Humboldt County, right around Cape Mendocino, we have very little warning time. That arrival time, in fact, was supposed to be right about now here in the Bay Area, right about 12:10 in San Francisco. So thankfully, that is not the case, and we'll keep an eye on the aftershocks for this portion of, at least for Northern California, right around the epicenter. We'll have more information coming up in just a little bit.
All right, Mark, thank you so much. We'll check in with you shortly. Next, we want to go to Elizabeth Valente, resident of Half Moon Bay, and she's also communications over at Stanford Children's Hospital. Elizabeth, what can you tell us about your experience here going through all of this?
Yeah, hi. So as soon as the earthquake happened, the next thing was, of course, the tsunami warning. As soon as that hit, I just quickly grabbed my emergency grab-and-go bag, which holds a lot of my important documents, as well as some of the medication and overnight clothes, and I jumped in the car. I was probably in my car probably around 11:15 and then heading towards the peninsula. It literally took me 45 minutes just to finally hit right where you're about to hit the 92 and 280. I live in Ocean Colony, which is right next to the Ritz, walkable to the water, and I wasn't taking any chances. You saw a lot of San Mateo County fire, as well as police officers coming up towards the 92, heading towards Half Moon Bay while I was on the corkscrew. And a lot of them were on motorcycles. There were a couple on SUVs. Over near the 35 Skyway crossing, they had also stopped everyone from trying to come into Half Moon Bay, as everybody was trying to leave Half Moon Bay. So again, it took me about 45 minutes to finally leave Half Moon Bay, which normally would take probably no more than about 15, 20 minutes. Normally.
Elizabeth, do you think this specifically was of people leaving Half Moon Bay because of the tsunami warning, that you ran into all this traffic? And we're looking at a photo that I believe you sent out a little bit earlier. Is that the reason why?
Absolutely. normally around lunchtime or a little bit before, I'll head out to grab something. And normally you don't see this much traffic. And to see the stop and go that was going on any normal work day, absolutely. You might find something like this during Pumpkin Festival or any kind of major event going on in Half Moon Bay, people just trying to get home. But no, this is definitely people trying to leave from all directions of Half Moon Bay, from downtown, from southbound, and coming from northbound, all trying to get on the 192. And one thing that didn't happen that normally we have tests for was the tsunami alarm did not go off. We have these tests every month about the tsunami alarm, and it's supposed to be heard all throughout Half Moon Bay, and it did not go out, or at least I did not hear it.
But you normally hear it when you are in and around Half Moon Bay when the monthly tests go off?
Yes. Yes.
And this time you were right in a normal area that you would have heard them, and you didn't hear them this time. Interesting.
Correct.
Let me ask you a question. You mentioned a moment ago that you grabbed your go bag, and we've been mentioning that, thank goodness, this didn't turn out to be something bigger, but it did remind everyone to be prepared for the worst, and it sounds like you were prepared. How long have you been doing this? What's your advice to folks that are watching?
Yeah, since living in California and always by the water, and also as a former reporter covering this, I've learned to always have a grab-and-go bag, and basically it's just overnight clothes. In this case, I grabbed also another bag that holds all of our important paperwork, from passports to insurance information, health information. I grabbed my husband's wedding ring and my wedding ring, because my husband works at the hospital and doesn't wear that at the hospital. So I'm like, okay, I'm grabbing those wedding rings. And I grabbed my laptop and my wallet, and that was about it. I didn't really grab too much more from that. I figured, you know what, if there's anything else I need, I'm heading towards the peninsula. I have a credit card. I have money. I can buy whatever else I need once I hit drier land. But, yeah, it's just basically overnight clothes, important paperwork. My car always has water and bars in it because I do a lot of hiking, but you just never know when you get stuck somewhere, especially with all these power outages. And that was the other thing. Because of the power outages, I also made sure that our doors that have bolts were unbolted, so then we'll be able to get in to the house later on.
Gotcha. Elizabeth Valenti, thank you so much for sharing what happened to you and what transpired in Half Moon Bay today, and also just the important information about having that go bag ready with those important documents, because, you know, should the worst happen there, that is exactly what you'll need. Elizabeth, thank you so much for that report. You're looking at a live picture. Just a moment ago, you were looking at the Santa Cruz Harbor. Now we're back at Sky Fox looking over the Ocean Beach area along the San Francisco coast as we kind of keep an eye on what is happening out there right now. The tsunami warning expired just a short time ago, but you may want to wait a little bit, and we're back to the live picture right now down in Santa Cruz at the harbor right there as we keep an eye on things in that area as well. Let's get things over now in our continuing team coverage with Kirsten Cafton. He's at San Francisco's Fort Point. Tsunami warning was just canceled. That was issued a short time ago. Certainly some good news for residents around the San Francisco area, Christian.
Yeah, absolutely. You might have just caught it. We just had a U.S. Coast Guard chopper fly overhead along the coastline here. To give you a sense of where we are at Fort Point, which is right at the Golden Gate. If you take a look over here, you can see that the road to Fort Point for vehicles and for pedestrians has been closed. That ordinarily a rather popular tourist spot. As we turn over a little bit to our right, you can see that that entire area has been completely evacuated because of that tsunami warning, which of course has now been lifted. You might have also seen some people gathering here in the area simply because they cannot get to Fort Point right now. We do have a lot of people in the area who wanted to see if they could see any signs that has now been lifted, but you can see where they're really looking. As you look at Fort Point there on the edge there, you can see those waves coming in, and a lot of people keeping a very close eye on that area to see if in fact we can see anything. Just to give you a sense on what we did here, hold on, we're actually going to turn our camera back now to the gates because it looks as if there might be a U.S. Park officer opening the gate here, possibly for people to return to that area or enter that area over there. We're not quite sure at this point, but there is a blue light in that area, and it looks like that is possibly a U.S. Marshal or a federal police officer reopening the gate here to allow access once again to Fort Point. This is similar to what we saw because we did see a great deal of activity along the coastline on our way here. Our route had us going up Ocean Beach. As we were coming up Ocean Beach, we saw numerous emergency responders in that area talking to people who were in the area, trying to get people out of that area, right up to Cliff House, which if you know the geography of the area, you know that Cliff House is off the water. It is fairly high, perched on that cliff. But there were emergency responders, especially in the area of Ocean Beach, trying to talk with folks, trying to get them out of the area. Now, when we did arrive here at Fort Point shortly before noon, we did see a number of people who were here in the area hoping to catch a glimpse of that tsunami coming in. We spoke with one young man on a bicycle. He said he was down here hoping to get a look at, in his words, something historical. And he also had that bicycle, which he said had a turbo mode. It looked like it was an electric bike. So if he really needed to get out of the area quickly, he felt pretty confident that he could do so. So at this point, though, we're not seeing a lot of activity here. We have not seen a real increase in the size of waves. This is the time that we'd heard that those waves would be coming in. So we certainly see waves, of course, coming into the San Francisco Bay. Nothing unusual. But again, here at Fort Point, this area that had been closed off, now reopened to the public. You can see that they're reopening the road for vehicles to drive through. You can see that soon they're going to be reopening access for pedestrians. When we first arrived, just to give you a sense on how seriously they were taking this, we were met by a National Park Service employee at the top of the road close to Battery East in the area who told us the road was closed. They were not allowing anyone to go in. Now we're starting to see vehicles entering the area. We certainly see a lot of pedestrians, some bicycles in the area, people trying to come down here and see if they can see any signs of what was going to be a tsunami. So certainly people very interested in what's going on, trying to see if they can catch a glimpse themselves. And as you see behind me, the road now here to Fort Point now reopened because that tsunami warning has been lifted. People gaining access to the coastline once again. We will continue to follow up on any developments out here along the shoreline in San Francisco. But for now, we are live at Fort Point in San Francisco. Christian Cafton, KTVU, Fox 2 News.
Yep, you're standing in front of a sure sign. Things are getting back to normal there. A lot of tourists out taking pictures right by the Golden Gate Bridge. Christian, thank you for that live report. Just a quick update now. BART has resumed normal service. We told you earlier how they had stopped service at the Transbay 2 because of the tsunami warning and, of course, the earthquake that struck as well. But things are getting back to normal at this hour. We just wanted to pass it along to you if you do use BART to get around the Bay Area. All right, joining us now on the phone is Crystal Haddock. She was at the San Francisco Zoo earlier, and we told you that the zoo was shut down and evacuated. We were told by officials there that the animals were secured, but Crystal was actually in the zoo at the time that this was all happening, and she joins us on the phone now to tell us about her experience. Crystal, tell us what you were doing in the zoo when all this happened.
Hey, Andre, thanks for having me.
Sure.
We actually were just going to the zoo, you know, a regular day, just me and my little one. And then we started to get the notification on our phones, like everybody's phone, you heard just starting doing this alert sound. And we weren't really sure what it was. So we looked at it, and then I see everybody just frantically with their strollers, my mothers, running towards the front of the exit, of the entrance. And we're like, okay, so we should probably take this a little bit seriously.
Wow.
Considering how close we are to the water. So we started to, follow the crowd, and all of a sudden we hear all of these workers with on their walkie-talkies to evacuate. The zoo is closing, and then that's when it got a little bit more scarier. So then we're a little bit deeper into the zoo, so we had to kind of rush a little bit. And then as we're exiting, my girlfriend works there. I was like, okay, are you guys closed? She's like, the zoo is closed. The zoo is closed because we're very close to the water. And, you don't really know how to take this. Like, do we take this seriously? Or, you know what I mean? Like, you get these notifications on your phones, but how serious are they? And it's just me and like my little one, she's only 3 years old. So we just kind of went out there, and then everyone was like, just leave. And I seen mothers running with their strollers, and it freaked everyone out. And I think it freaked even more people out, seeing other people. When we went to leave, I kind of looked at the water, the beach, and it was very like low tide. And I know when tsunamis hit, they kind of like bring in the water. So I know there was kind of like something was happening, I would like to assume. But we left, and then the 35 to leave to go to a higher ground was completely backed up. So I think everyone just kind of first reaction and then just like get out of there.
That must have been something though for you to have seen. The way you described it to me when we were talking on text earlier, you just saw all the moms running with their strollers.
It was like crazy, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like something you see out of a movie normally, but you're sitting there experiencing this in real life, isn't it?
I mean, they're not sending out a text for no reason, so you have to take everything so seriously.
All right, so you exited, I guess, the zoo. All the mothers are home. You and your daughters are.
Zoo.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So what I did notice, though, when we were leaving, everyone was like speeding. I don't know if they were going to their houses to like get their belongings, like if people that were local. But I did notice everyone was a little bit more frantic on the road.
Yeah, I'm sure
I'm getting out of there.
Yeah, so you're back home now with your girls. Everything is safe. The family's good. It's something to experience, to be sure, and we're glad everyone's okay. But it is a helpful reminder that sometimes when you get these alerts on your phone, that you might want to pay close attention to them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Crystal Haddock, thank you so much for joining us live this afternoon. Appreciate it. Thank you for sharing your story with us. All right.
Bye-bye.
All right. You too. Let's get over to James Torres now. He is in the studio getting reaction from across the Bay Area as we look live. James from Sky Fox just a moment ago over at Ocean Beach. People getting back into the water. Those surfers are trying to catch the next wave there.
That's what they love when they hear news like this, right? I think the scariest part about this was really the alarm that came from your phone. We know that alarm is loud. It's a little obnoxious, but that's the whole point. It's meant to get your attention, to let you know that there's something you need to pay attention to. Now, for the most part, there wasn't much of activity that we could feel super close to the Bay Area, but some of you are telling us that you did. This is our Facebook page. You can go on at any point and comment what your experience has been. But we have been asking folks what you felt, and a lot of you are weighing in. We didn't really expect much, but we did notice that some of you said that you felt a slight jolt in Belmont, a little something down in Sunnyvale. Some said they felt something in Katati after feeling that earthquake alarm go off. Again, that was up just off the coast of Humboldt County, so hours away from where we are. Lots of aftershakes after, and if you felt something, that's likely what you felt. Now, I think we have a live camera out in the city of Berkeley, and that's because earlier this morning, West Berkeley had put out an evacuation alert. That's not the only town in the Bay Area to do so. A number of them, especially in the East Bay, were calling for evacuation orders. That didn't last very long. Once the tsunami warning was lifted and canceled, all of those evacuation orders were canceled. Most of that seemingly to be done out of an abundance of caution. Now, let's talk about a little closer up to where the epicenter of that earthquake was, because we had a chance to speak to the mayor of the city of Eureka earlier this morning. She gave us a little bit of an idea of what evacuations there looked like.
Currently, we are doing evacuations in some of the areas that could potentially be affected by a tsunami, and that is just as preventative measures. We don't have any details in yet about damages that may or may not have happened, but I'm sure that will be forthcoming.
Yeah, as she mentioned, preventative there in the city of Eureka, very much preventative in places like Berkeley, Albany, other cities here in the Bay Area, all of which, for the most part, have been canceled. Evacuation orders no longer in place. So the mayor of Eureka there, she tells us that they evacuated places like the marina, City Hall, and the wastewater plant. all because those are lower level buildings. They just wanted to get people to higher ground. We've been hearing that same story from people who work in different parts of the Bay Area, just going to higher parts of their buildings that they work in. Now, we keep hearing from the fire department at this time, still try to stay away from the beaches. Surfers, we know, may not listen to those warnings, but at this time, those are the warnings that are still coming from the fire department. For the most part, it seems like all operations are coming back to normal, Andre. But of course, you always just want to be more safe than sorry.
You certainly do want to be more safe than sorry, buddy. As you mentioned, as we saw in that live picture from Sky Fox, that surfer getting back into the water over there at Ocean Beach. James, thank you so much. We want to get to some new video into our newsroom right now. And this is video from Carmichael right now. And this is what it looked like when the earthquake struck. And you could see, you might be able to make out that the water is shaking pretty heavily. This video coming in to our newsroom just a short time ago from the Sacramento area up in Carmichael, where they did experience some of the shaking. Some people down here in the Bay Area said they did feel some of that shaking. We spoke to a seismologist from USGS that was down in Mountain View. She heard a little bit. She experienced a little bit of the shaking, and some people around the Bay Area told us they also experienced it as well. All right, the USGS is holding another briefing right now. We want to get back to it and listen and see if we can get any updates to the earthquake that struck earlier today.
The shake alert system operates on the principle of taking about 1 second of data from the earthquake and then processing that information and then making an estimate. It's from those estimates, and actually the earthquake is monitored as it progresses. This is what the system does. And the highest estimate that the shake alert system came up with for this event was magnitude 6.9. And so the regions that were alerted for this earthquake correspond really well with the actual size of the earthquake. And I think it's important to realize, too, that all of our earthquake sensors that we use to detect the event are on land. And so we saw, once the shaking reached those first seismic sensors on the coast, that's when the system was activated, and that's when everything went into action. And so what should happen is that, and in many cases, people may have received at least a few seconds of warning time before the strongest shaking arrived at their location. But our advice to people is, if you feel shaking or if you get an alert, to drop, cover, and hold on. Our estimates also show, and also from the data from our interactive map at usgs.gov, also show that intensity levels of shaking as high as intensity 8 were estimated by the shake alert system and also ultimately observed by our seismic network. And at MMI, or intensity 8, this is considered to be severe shaking. And so there could be slight damage to really well-designed structures, but considerable construction could have received, sort of common construction could have received considerable damage from this. So people probably saw things falling off of shelves, windows being broken, lots of shaking in the building, heavy furniture being moved. So all of these things are observed for this event. So one thing we are really wanting to make sure that people know is that to stay safe, aftershocks are possible. Be ready for more shaking and be ready to take that protective action. At several earthquakes, at least 3 or 4, since this initial event, about an hour and a half ago or so, that we've received additional alert activations, shake alert system activations. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Bob. We'll go ahead and move to our first question from William Mojado. If you could please reiterate your name and your affiliation, please.
Yeah, thank you so much. William Mojado from the Sacramento Bee here. You all said that this was a strong earthquake, yet it's pretty normal for this area. I was wondering if you could put this earthquake in context, kind of historically. When was the last time this region saw this magnitude of earthquake? And yeah.
Sure. So this area does have frequent earthquakes. The last significant earthquake in this area was the Ferndale earthquake in 2022. That released significantly less energy. It was a magnitude 6.4. There are also some other magnitude 6 to 7 earthquakes, 2021 and 2016. In 1992, there was a magnitude 7.2 earthquake. in this area. So this is an area where sort of, every few years or a few decades, there's a significant earthquake of this time. The largest one we've seen in the last century or so is a magnitude 7.4 in 1922. And it's interesting to note that there are many sort of flavors of earthquakes here. As I mentioned, the complex tectonic system there. Some have a lot of vertical motion. In 1992, the coastal mountain ranges and the coast were actually uplifted quite a bit. In this case, we don't expect a lot of that sort of on-land change. The main effect of this type of earthquake is the strong shaking that Bob described.
Yeah, and to give you some perspective, the event back in 2022, the magnitude 6.4 that Steve mentioned, this particular earthquake was on the order of 8 times bigger than that event in 2022. So.
Great, thanks you guys. Next question from Lizzie Acker. Please name and affiliation.
Hi, my name is Lizzie Acker, and I'm a reporter for the Oregonian in Portland. I had 2 quick questions. Bob, you said, I just want to verify that you said 500,000 people received alerts on their phone?
At least 500,000, and we're waiting for more reports from our other alert delivery partners, but we know from our initial report from the MyShake, our alert delivery provider, MyShake, they delivered over 500,000 alerts to subscribers to this particular alerting product.
Awesome. And then can you tell me, do you know how many of those were in Oregon? Clearly I have an Oregon.
That's a very difficult question to answer because they don't necessarily break it down by state. But you consider there were 2 fairly large cities that were affected, Eugene and Corvallis, with sizable populations, both have universities. And then it's likely as far east as folks on the other side of the Cascades in Bend may have also received alerts as well. That they were kind of on the edge of that. And just to maybe put a little bit of an accent to this too, is that there are many flavors of alerts that are delivered. There's one type of alert from the wireless emergency alert system. It's the same system that delivers Amber alerts to cell phones. And those alerts were delivered as far north into Oregon as far north as Bandon.
Wow. And then my second question, I guess that was my first 2-part question, is the shaking you described, was that all in California or was any felt in Oregon? Do you know?
Yeah, so in order for alerts to be delivered into places like Corvallis and Eugene and those regions, the experience, the estimated shaking, and this is very important, is the Shake Alert system estimates the shaking using about 1. The most, who could feel the heaviest shaking, but also get alerts to people to give them time to take that protective action if the earthquake continues to grow in size and the shaking gets to be stronger.
Thank you so much.
Thank you thank you. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next questions. There's 5 people currently with their hands up and 1 in the chat. So I just want to ask you to ask a question, and then we'll come back to you for more questions if you have one. But next up is Hannah Hagman. Name and affiliation.
Hi, I'm Hannah. I'm with the San Francisco Chronicle. I have a clarifying question. At the last press conference, which was super helpful, I asked a question about the earthquake that occurred near Cobb, California, which was initially estimated in the 5 to 6 range. And then Christine Gould mentioned that it was a much smaller event and then, quote, reassessed to a 2.5 magnitude. My colleague brought up that on the USGS site, I think that's still a higher number. So I just wanted to follow up. Is that accurate that it was reassessed at a 2.5 magnitude?
It was. I perhaps to refresh the page, but the number was adjusted.